Welcome back to another episode of N.Cast. My name is Prince Eyo, and today we have a special guest. His name is Todd. Todd is actually a mental health licensed therapist, and he gives great insight in this interview about why mental health matters. I think you guys are in for a treat. So without further ado, let's get into the episode. Basically, I'm just going to dive right into it and just go into saying, what do you do for a living? Just tell us what you do for a living.
I'm a licensed therapist right now, located in Jersey. I have my license located in Jersey. So I do one-on-one psychotherapy, and I work with children from the ages. My youngest client is 11 years old. My oldest client right now is 19 years old. So I've been in the mental health field for 7+ years now. Started in group homes, and from there went to a psychiatric hospital. From there, I was a group counselor and a case manager, and then that transitioned me into what I'm doing now, to being an individual psychotherapist. So that's my main job, is just pretty much one-on-one psychotherapy.
That's what's up. My first job straight out of high school, I was a case manager up in Prince Eyo County. Yeah. So like my youngest kid, he was 12, and the oldest kid I had was around 20 years old.
Like, okay, so that's similar. Yeah.
And honestly, I was working with like the probation office and stuff like that. So like I was just making sure they were making curfew and stuff like, case manager stuff, checking in and stuff like that on them. And I commend that job because it's really stressful. Like,
it can
really
be
stressful, especially if like the kid, like I said, I was working with a probation officer. So if the kid like messed up too much in his probation, he goes back to jail. And like sometimes it's heartbreaking because you have a connection with the kid, and then like then he messes up because you think he's doing what he's supposed to do, but it's like you can't be there all the time.
Yeah, no, that's very true, man. Yeah, and it can kind of mess with you outside of work too. Like it's easy to, when you work in that field, it's easy for you to carry like what happens at work into your personal life. So especially when you have like an attachment with your client. So let's say like one of your clients is like 11 or 12 years old, and like you build like a solid rapport with them. Then they make a mistake, then now they're going back to like to the juvenile detention center. That can kind of play a factor in you a little bit if you're attached to that client, or if you had like a solid rapport with them. So it definitely can be a stressful field at times.
Yeah, it's definitely the rapport with the kids, but it's really important. Like a lot of kids need it because they don't have that support at home.
So man.
So
and that's the sad part, man. Yeah.
But Mental Health Matters. Is that your brand, or
so
that's the brand that you like? I've been seeing on social media. Maybe it's more to it. Maybe you could just elaborate on what.
Definitely. So I started Mental Health Apparel. I think it was November 2018 is when I started Mental Health Apparel. So long story short, the main reason why I started the clothing line is just to kind of start the conversation of mental health without you like actually saying anything, because people really pay attention to what you wear, and it can sometimes spark a conversation. So when I was doing group therapy, and when I was a group counselor and I was doing case management, I made this shirt just all my own, just made it just to wear it. Wore it to work a few times and got like a lot of like positive feedback from my coworkers and even the kids too. So then I started wearing it more, where I used to wear it to the gym, wear it to Wawa, to the store and everything. And every time I had it on, it was starting a conversation about mental health, So I didn't even think about selling the shirts when I first made it. It was just for me. But then I think it was one of my coworkers who asked, like, can I get a shirt? So in my head, I was like, okay, cool. Like, I'll just give you one. But then she was like, how much is it? So when she said that, that's when the light bulb went off. And I'm like, okay, so people are going to be willing to pay for it. So then that's when it turned into a whole clothing line. But when I brought it to Instagram, I didn't just want to be a clothing line on Instagram. I wanted to find different ways to kind of educate people and spread more awareness on social media. So what I did was I post a lot of like information on like depression, anxiety, different mental health diagnoses, and like different ways to deal with these diagnoses on my page. So it's kind of keeping the conversation going, educating and spreading awareness.
I love it. Yeah, I've seen a lot of your posts online. I didn't know about your apparel until you actually showed me it, but like I've seen a lot of your posts from your personal page. I guess you mix it too in your stories.
So for my personal page, I try to just keep that like me, and then I have my mental health page, which is all like mental health information. And then I'm in the process of starting a private practice, and I have another page for that. That's all sports mental health related. So I try to keep them all separated because I don't want to like, mix too much and just be all over the place with everything.
Nah, that makes sense. I do the same in my business.
Yeah.
So this is one thing I really was curious about. Well, like, what's your brand's mission? Like, every business or brand has like a mission statement or like a well-rounded, goal-oriented statement to their like business or brand.
So our mission and our goal is to keep the conversation going about mental health. You know, because just like I just explained, like when you see the shirt for that 2 seconds, you're gonna think about mental health. You know, and that might make you check in with yourself, check in with the people around you. And then on the back of the shirt, it said, "Don't ignore your mental health." So it's a positive statement reminding people to make sure you make your mental health a priority. Because in our world now, it's real easy to focus more on the negatives. It's real easy to focus on everybody outside of yourself. So our goal is to kind of help people remember that their mental health is priority and they should always put that first. So that's like our main mission with our apparel and everything.
Okay. Yeah. I think it's really important, especially in Black community and people of color community. It's just, I feel like it's handled a little differently. I mean, I'm not going to
As
speak.
far as mental health?
Yeah, when it comes to mental health, but I'm not going to speak for each individual. I just, the culture is just a little different when it comes to mental health. You see how it's displayed a little bit on social media, how people handle mental health. I mean, as we grow older, like I'm gonna be 27 in June, but like last 5 years on Instagram, I could see people's like mental health going left and right, and it's just like, yo, it's the same thing affecting me. Like you said, from like outside news or just outside influence, just not putting yourself in like a positive mindset, like all of that matters. So
for sure, man. Yeah. And a lot of things like something I see with my clients. Well, now it's starting to change. I'm starting to see a lot more African American clients more open to therapy. When I first started in the field, it was the complete opposite. It was just like, you know, like all my like white clients compared to my Black clients. All the white clients, they were just open and ready for therapy. You know, like they were willing to learn more about themselves. They were willing to try different strategies compared to my Black clients that they were pretty much just like, I'm forced here. You know, so that made it a little bit harder. But like I can say now, right? So and that's the thing. At first, I used to hate that wall. You know, because like it'll take like a solid 4 weeks to get that person, you know, involved and kind of like, you know, like willing to put a little bit more effort into therapy. But now two things. Now I learned I actually like clients now that are against therapy because it makes me be more creative to open their mind to the benefits of therapy. But also now I also see a lot more Black clients are more willing and they're more open to it, which is awesome, especially the younger clients, which is dope because I feel like the more the older crowd talks about it, the more celebrities talk about it, it makes the younger generation a little bit more open to trying therapy. So you definitely see the shift.
Yeah, that's definitely awesome. Like, how young would you say? Like middle school or high schoolish? Maybe
middle school.
Middle
Middle
school.
school, yeah.
I was thinking like maybe high school. That's when they start opening up. You know, that's when the
body middle school
changes. You know what I mean?
Now, high school is weird because high school kids, it's how do I explain it? I feel like when you're in middle school, you're more open to it, but the only time it's harder for a middle schooler is when they feel like therapy is a consequence. So like I have to have multiple conversations with the parents of middle schoolers to let them know, like when their kids coming into like therapy sessions, don't make it seem like there's a consequence. So don't be like, oh, you were bad this week, so you're going to talk to your therapist now. Because once you do that, the kid's like, I don't want to go. You know, it's almost like going to the principal's office. Like, I don't want to be there now, you know? So with middle schooler kids, you really have to be like creative and be mindful of what you say when it comes to therapy. But high schooler kids, they're like automatically more open to it, but they're just more with them. Like you see a lot of like pressure from outside sources other than themselves, like just people judging them, trying to look cool on social media. So it's like with those clients, they're open to therapy, or from my experience, they're open to therapy. But at the same time, it's just like, you know, the issues they're dealing with is different from the middle schoolers.
I mean, tell me if I'm wrong. I just feel like when it comes to high school, it's about like finding yourself. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, like I mean, a lot of people have their own TV now. It's on your phone, but like usually TV shows always are surrounded by like high school drama, the popular ones. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I feel like
exactly.
It had like an identity thing to it when it came to like high school years. Those 4 years of high school is like
man,
identity. Those 4 years.
Yeah.
So
100%. 100%.
I honestly believe like high school was just different. I mean, for me, I didn't even reflect back on it until like a couple of years back, but like it just went by. And then I didn't notice it being important until like after college. I was like, wow, like
as far as mental
health and like the importance of like ego and like finding myself.
Oh yeah, very true, man. Very true. That's the same thing with me. Throughout high school, bro, I can't recall any conversation about mental health. I can't recall not one conversation with my parents, teachers, school. Like I can't recall. I don't even recall learning about it in school. You know, so it wasn't until I want to say, so my freshman year I was undecided for my major, but then my sophomore year I decided to go into psychology. And the main reason why I wanted to psychology, honestly, was just because it was interesting and it was an easy topic for me at that time. So like I had no idea what I wanted to do, but like the more I learned, the more interested I got into the field. But then it wasn't until 2014 when my brother had his mental break, and then that's when I really tapped into like mental health and psychology. Then I looked in more to my family, found out that my brother and my dad had the same diagnosis of schizophrenia. So like once I noticed that, then I'm like, damn, like so mental health's been around me my entire life. You know, my dad had schizophrenia. My brother was diagnosed with schizophrenia in 2014. So I'm just like, it was around me this whole entire time, but I had no idea just because nobody talked about mental health with me. Nobody really sat down and taught me anything about mental health. So it wasn't until college for me also to kind of get on the wheel and get on the ball about like learning more about this topic.
And I mean, just because you shared a little bit of information, it's around the same time with me too, like 19, 20. I had my mental break and I had to go to like therapy and stuff like that for like depression and stuff like that. So it was like I wasn't well educated on like the subject of mental health and like depression and anxiety until like I got admitted into like a facility, and then I had to go to therapy. I stopped therapy for a little bit, but then now I'm back at it.
That's good, yeah.
Let's see. I find it intriguing at the same time. It puts me in mental check. You know what I mean? And that's just me. Like I'm not gonna disclose a lot of information about it, but it's just it's still like something that I feel like when I was like 22, 23, when I got out of it, I'm like, I'm good. But then when I got to like 25, 26 now, I'm like, wow, I forgot the importance of it. So I check myself.
Yeah, that's good.
And, when I sent you that message of me like explaining about my depression and stuff like that, and that little video, I was like, I really do want to break like the stigma. Like you feel like an outsider when a lot of people are going through the same thing.
Very true.
They're not as vocal about it because I honestly believe, at least in American culture, you always want to have like this like sense of strength or like the sense of like you came from rags of riches, and that's the only way you get respect. And it's like, you know, it's just like the noble way of doing things. You always have to have body armor, and like showing any vulnerability or weakness is like, you know, a no-no. And you're saying it's changing. Like people are being more open about it. People are actually like taking the time to actually consider mental health and not like throw shade against it or like be sarcastic. Like, no, seriously, like take it as like something that's very important to your mind, body, spirit, everything. It all matters. It all connects.
Exactly, bro. It's just like your physical health, man. Like we all pay attention to our physical health. Like if you sprain your ankle, sprain your wrist, you're not just gonna look at it and be like, all right, I'm gonna leave it alone. I'm gonna ignore it. You know, I'll get to it later. Like you're gonna go straight to the doctors. You know, it's the same thing with our mental health. Like when we feel off a little bit or we see like we're getting out of our routine and we can't figure it out why, we shouldn't just ignore it and be like, all right, maybe next week I'll go back to normal. Like we should all invest into a therapist. And a lot of people ask me, should everybody have a therapist? And my answer, honestly, is yeah. I feel like everybody can benefit from therapy. You know, I feel like everybody having a therapist, you don't have to go every week. You don't have to go every day, but just having a therapist that you can go to when needed, I feel like it's healthy for your mind. You know, I feel like it's healthy that if you're going through something, you can go talk to that person. They'll be 100% honest with you, because a lot of people tend to say, oh, well, my best friend's like my therapist. I can go to them for everything. But going to a friend compared to a therapist is completely different, because sometimes a friend will kind of tell you things they think you want to hear, or they're not going to be 100% honest with you because they don't want to hurt your feelings or make you feel even more down. But when you go to a therapist that's right for you and the perfect fit therapist for you, they're going to be real with you. You know, like if you're doing something wrong, they're going to challenge you on it, and they're going to help you figure out better ways to deal with certain issues you're going through. So I definitely encourage everybody to go to therapy. And that's why I told you, like, when you shared your story on social media, is dope because that's going to get people thinking like, damn, yo, so he went to therapy, he's benefited from it. So let me look into it. You know, I'm struggling, I'm trying on my own to get through this and I can't. So let me try looking into therapy. So like the more you talk about it, the more it's going to get people thinking about possibly them going to therapy. Yeah, exactly, bro. For black men.
Especially for black men, but like just men, our psychology just gets a little bit like, all right, okay, I can't generalize altogether, but like, I just know like for heterosexual men, as we get older, the societal pressure to be a provider, being like strong one all the time, especially if you plan on getting married and protecting your own.
Yeah,
being vulnerable is a big risk.
Yeah.
It is a big risk. So, we as men think about risk and rewards, right? So it's like it's a big risk of being vulnerable. So like when you talk about therapy, especially speaking for like black men and heterosexual men, it's like, all right, it's one thing you're doing it like covertly behind closed doors, but then when you're open about it, it's like, damn, the stigma is still a hit. It's still a hit. So when you said your mission is like keep an open conversation about it, I don't want to mess it up. Or
keep the conversation going.
Keep the conversation going. Like that does matter. Like we're not even like the same state, and we're conversing. So it's
exactly, bro. Exactly.
The conversation going. We're about to put this on a podcast to have like an open like discussion about it, open dialogue. Times are changing. I just really hope like conversations like our conversation and the next person who's talking about mental health, especially if they're a black person, like just that one little drop in the water creates a ripple effect. You know what I mean?
It does. Yeah, man. And you definitely got to keep that conversation going, So it's like even just checking in on your friends, like, yo, hey, what's up? How's your mental health going? And using the terms mental health instead of just asking like, how are you? Just that kind of general statement, like really check in on your friend's mental health. And that kind of gets them thinking about it more, So I feel like definitely any way we can spark that conversation would definitely help decrease that stigma on mental health. Because the first few times somebody might be like kind of like weirded out that you're asking about their mental health. But the more you do it, the more comfortable they'll get with it.
Definitely. Especially the rapport you have with that person.
Yeah.
But I'm going to switch up the last question because you kind of answered it in the middle of the podcast. I'm not going to like repeat a question. It's all good. So like, what drives you in this field? Because like I told you, I've been a case manager when I came out of college for around a year or two. And like, it gets you down sometimes.
Yeah.
Like it can really be a drag sometimes, especially when like what you said in the beginning of the podcast, you build a rapport with the kid and then they mess up and they end up going back to juvie. Like I've actually experienced something like that. Yeah. So like what keeps you driven? Like what helps you like be motivated to like keep the kid, like whoever you're dealing with, level-headed and help them express themselves even on their worst days? You know what I mean?
I would honestly say 100% my clients. Like if I didn't have the clients throughout my like process of becoming a good licensed therapist, I probably wouldn't be in this field anymore.
Okay.
Because like you said, it is a draining field, but I would say my clients definitely keep me motivated. Just seeing them from when we first start going through certain issues to when they're done and they complete treatment, and just seeing how they're a whole different person and they have confidence in themselves, and they might be faced with something in the future, but they have confidence that they can get through it. So just seeing like the journey that the clients go through, that keeps me motivated. And at first, when I first started in the field, it was kind of difficult because I ran into some clients that I couldn't build a rapport with. I ran into some cases to where like I was questioning myself, like, am I actually making a difference? Am I helping them? Am I just wasting an hour, 2 hours of their day? So that was really messing with me. Like psychologically, I was trying to figure out, like, am I doing enough? Then I started doing too much. But then I started going to like supervision with my supervisor, which is kind of like therapy for therapists a little bit, because we kind of like process our cases and everything. And she said, all you can do really is just give the tools to your client, and it's up to them to put it into action in their real life. So when I started thinking like that, like all I can do is 100% what I can do on my end of the table and just put it out there and hope the client catches it and runs with it, then that kind of like took away the pressure from me. So to answer your question, is mainly just seeing the process and seeing the progress that my clients make throughout the therapeutic journey is what kind of keeps me going.
Yeah, that's dope. I mean, I've been there. Only because, like, I remember this one client I had, like, it wouldn't matter how much, like, I push to, like, motivate him. Like, on his worst day, like, he was getting ready to attack me. And I'm just like, listen, like,
yeah, bro, it's tough,
you don't need to do that. You know what I mean? Like, but, like, I understood where he's coming from because the area he was coming from. I'm not saying he's a product of his environment. I'm just saying, like, the area he's coming from, that's just how they move, right? So, like, I had to show some type of empathy behind that, you know, or some type of sympathy behind that, and, like, understand, like, this is just a bad time for him. I need to come back when it's like he's in a better mental space or stuff like that. Like, make sure, like, he's still good overall. So, or she just went through, like, a traumatic experience. Like, I entered into something like that when the little girl who's like 14 go through a traumatic experience. Like, I got to know how to provide some tools for her. So
that's the biggest thing, man.
In that field. I really do.
Thank you, bro. Thank you.
Because, like,
and that's a good point you made, though, because, like, when you're in a position like that, you have to put your feelings to the side. You have to focus on how they're feeling. Yeah. So, like, if let's say you were my client and you start attacking me right now, if you weren't my client, my initial reaction might be anger. I might get upset and defend myself. But when you're at work and that happens, you have to kind of put your feelings to the side a little bit and focus on, like, all right, why are you coming at me like that? Like, what's going on? You know, so at first it's definitely difficult. Like, I'm pretty sure the first time you got attacked, it was kind of like, oh, like, this is different. Like, you kind of, like, hesitate how you're going to respond to it. So it definitely takes a lot of patience to kind of, like, just understand that you have to put yourself.
That's again. And they're underage. They're a kid too, so it's like you know, you're gonna expect it. You know, that's what I'm saying. High school, because kids were in high school when I was dealing with them.
Oh, okay,
But I didn't. Keep on,
but it just takes a lot of patience and everything for you to kind of, like, just understand that you have to focus on a client in front of you, and you have to put yourself to the side. You know, so, like, if you're having a bad day when you start your therapy session, like, you can't carry that into your session because that can affect your client. So once you know how to put your feelings to the side and put their feelings in front and make that the priority, it makes it a little bit easier throughout the process. But yeah, man. But it's definitely an interesting field, bro. It has its ups and downs, of course, like everything, but it definitely is an interesting field. And I'm glad I'm into it. Glad I'm working with it. Working in this field.
Yeah, no, we appreciate. I appreciate people like you who are in that field. I feel like it's not enough, like, appreciation for people in that field, because, like, you're like a external support for kids that are in need growing up. You know, especially minority kids.
Yeah,
it's especially being a male figure, minority kid.
Yeah,
that's another. Yeah. So it's like it's three different tiers right there, like different levels right there. But I have just one last question before we're gonna head out. I'm not gonna waste too much of your time because it just popped into my head. What are your thoughts on, like, emotional intelligence? Especially when you're seeing, like, kids going into adolescence. I feel like it's not focused on enough. And literally, in your last statement, what you were just saying, like, you gotta put your emotions aside and, like, focus on theirs, because, like, you can tell the difference, but they can't. So you got to help them with their emotions. Are you teaching them sort of doing that?
So it's different for client. So, like, when you do group therapy, it's more like an agenda. Like, this week, we're going to talk about this emotion. We're going to talk about anger. We're going to talk about sadness. We're going to talk about this emotion, whatever it may be. But when it's one-on-one psychotherapy, it's kind of like you meet the client where they're at. So I have some clients that already have that knowledge about their emotional state. Like, I have some clients that break down their anger into 5 different stages on their own. You know, like, they'll say at stage 1, I'm like this. Stage 2, I'm like this. This gets me to stage 3. Then when I'm at stage 3, stage 4 looks like this. So some clients are able to kind of, like, you know, explain that on their own. For clients that are unable to, then that's when I teach those clients, you know, the importance of their emotional state, the importance of noticing when you're getting upset. You know, because a lot of kids can tell you what it looks like when they're actually at 10, like when they're mad and they're having their outbursts. But what is it looking like before you get to that stage? You know, before you get angry, what does that look like? Because that's when you want to start implementing your coping skills and implement different things to kind of cool you down. Instead of waiting till you get mad, you want to do it before you get upset. you know? So I teach a lot of my clients like different techniques like that. And I use it myself. Like when I feel like I'm getting upset, like my body heats up, you know, I might start sweating. So once I feel that, it automatically goes off like, all right, Todd, you need to do something to cool down. Cause if not, you're going to hit that point. You're gonna hit your boiling point. So I do a lot of like teaching like that with my clients when it comes to emotional like responses and everything.
Basically like recognizing like this is emotion is going to come out.
Learning your triggers. Yeah. Learning your triggers, learning what it looks like when it comes to any type of different emotion. So that's mainly with the younger crowd though. With the younger crowd, that's the group that I usually talk about emotions the most. The older generation, not older generation, the older clients I have, they have a lot more knowledge, like the high school kids.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Definitely. I can definitely see that. They're probably the ones who actually break it down and like explain it.
Yeah, bro, and it's crazy. Like they can break it down to a T, and it's just like they're like 2.5. I look like this, you know, and it's just like they really have it like structured, like what it looks like. So, and I mean that makes my job easier because it's like, all right, so now we can just skip that stage and focus on what can we do when you get to stage 2 to bring you back down to 1, you know. So it's actually pretty cool when you see the kids like write it down and you see them creating their own solutions and their own ideas on different things they can do. And it's even better when they come back the following week or the following session or whatever, and they tell you that they implemented what you guys talked about and it works. Then it's like, all right, shit, man, perfect. Like we're on the right track. So let's continue to keep doing that. So that definitely keeps you motivated.
It's definitely dope. It's definitely dope.
Yeah, man.
So on my podcast, I like any guest that comes on, or when it's just me and me and Brian. He's my co-host on the episodes that we usually have. We do closing thoughts. So closing thoughts is basically like last giveaway thoughts you want to give to my audience before you like head out. Maybe have them ponder on what you do, or make them ponder on like mental health and the importance of mental health, or just anything you want to say. Just closing thoughts.
So that's a good one. I would say my last thoughts or my last statement would be like, I challenge everybody who's watching this or everybody who does watch this and listen to this. I challenge them to invest at least 1 hour a day throughout the week on just themselves. So that means kind of getting away from your phone and really increasing your self-care, especially right now with everything going on in the world with the pandemic and the rioting and everything. I feel like it's real easy to get pay too much attention to what's going on outside of us. So I really think people really need to kind of like just, you know, spend at least an hour a day focusing on themselves, and that's it. So if that means you need to take a nap, take a nap. That means you need to read or just, you know, journal or do some type of therapeutic activity to really focus and zone in on yourself. I definitely think we all should do that. And that's what I kind of preach to like some of my friends. Like I make sure, or I check in with them to make sure that they're investing time into themselves, investing time into their mental health instead of just being on go the entire time. So I challenge everybody to try that. And then once you complete it or once you do it, challenge somebody else, challenge one of your friends, your family, and just keep it going.
Basically just take a time out from the world for yourself. Right?
Yeah, man. And just detox from the world for a little bit. Focus on you. Focus on what you need to do to make sure you're in the right mental state. And then after that hour, you can go back to doing what you were doing. But if you do that at least 5 times a week, at least 1 time a day for 5 times a week, you'll see a difference in your mood. Like you'll see a difference in your energy. You'll see a difference in like a lot of different things. So I think we all should like at least try doing that.
It's like that and like meditating, I guess, right? Like,
yeah. So I'm still trying to get on the meditation wave. Like because meditation, it isn't easy, but the benefits of it is great.
Falling asleep. Is that why?
Bro, dead serious, bro. Like I tried it in my room one time, bro, and I made a mistake by laying in my bed doing it. So I'm like, all right, cool, I'm gonna do it. And bro, 10 minutes into it, I'm knocked out, bro. Yo, I wake up, I'm like, oh shit.
You forget all about it.
I'm like, yo, did it work out? Like, was that supposed to happen? So I'm trying to get nice with meditation. You know, I have some friends that really practice meditation, so I'm trying to get on that wave. Because with meditation, man, you really can control your thoughts. Because like throughout the day, we have over 600,000 thoughts. You know, so if you don't have control over that, you're gonna be thinking about everything throughout the day.
20,000. I didn't even know it was 600,000. I just
knew I did research.
I didn't know it was even that high of a number.
Yeah, man, it's high. So like we have different thoughts like throughout the day. The smallest thing can spark like 20 thoughts. Yeah. You know, so with meditation, it helps you lock in to one thing if you need to. So for example, if you're typing a paper and as you're typing it, you're thinking about like, oh, I got work tomorrow. Oh, what am I having for dinner? Oh, what's for breakfast tomorrow? Your mind just starts running and it distracts you from the paper. When you get good with meditation, you learn how to really kind of like kind of just focus in on what you're doing and lock in on that, and then just forget about everything else, like all the other distractions around you. So meditation really helps you.
That thought pattern of focus, is that what it is? Like the thought pattern, like the mental focus. Is it like a train? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like a train of thought, like a focus.
Yeah, exactly. So it helps you lock in on what you're doing. And also, like, let's say, oh man, it's so much. I don't want to like carry on too much, but like meditation helps you kind of, lock in the positive thoughts that we're having, because it's easy to start thinking about negative things throughout the day. And if you continue to think about negative things, then your actions are going to start like showing negative actions. Yeah. So meditation just helps your mind become strong. So it's like LeBron said, your mind's a muscle, and the more you train it, the stronger it gets. So meditation helps you train your mind and helps your mind become more stronger. So yeah, meditation is
one. I definitely like that ending one because I didn't even expect it, but meditation is very important. It's part of mental health.
Yeah, bro, for sure. Do you practice meditation? Huh? Do you do meditation or?
I try to. Like you said, I felt like I can't lay down doing it, so I have to like sit up. I do like limit like 10 minutes because then I get bored or I fall asleep. I think like as I'm doing it more and more, I'm gonna go like 15, 20.
The longer,
You know what I'm saying? Because like I don't want to fall asleep because then it's gonna be pointless, right? So
and that's the mistake I made, bro. I started off with like a 50-minute one. I knocked out too early. Like, so you got to start off small, like 2 minutes, 3 minutes, and then work your way up. So that's the best way to go.
I'm definitely gonna like. I did meditate. Last time I meditated was what's today? Thursday, maybe Monday.
Okay.
Just because like I said, this week was really stressful. So
yeah, bro.
It's just like a lot going on, and like I could feel my energy being negative. You know what I mean? That's one thing I've noticed. Like being self-aware, like I don't like giving off negative vibes. Like it ruins my day if I'm spreading it.
Yeah. So question, did you learn that through therapy or did you just learn that on your own to really kind of check in with yourself and like be like, all right, how am I feeling? I'm feeling negative, so I need to do something to kind of change that energy, or
both. So therapy, like recommended. It's like you said, you give the tools. Being in the field, you just give the tools. It's up to the patient to actually use it. So I was given the tool, but I didn't actually like practice it till like 3-4 years after.
Oh, okay. Got you.
I guess that's when life just started hitting me more. I guess that's what happened for me. Maybe for the next person. So
yeah.
But I highly recommend it too. But
definitely, man.
Don't lay down and meditate. I promise
you. Yeah, bro. I'm gonna try standing up and doing it, bro. Like, exactly. I need to stay away, bro. Yeah.
But performance paralysis or performance anxiety, is that a real thing?
100%. Are you talking about just like in an athlete's mind, or
athlete's
mind?
You talking? I would probably be on academic person's mind or any type of person's mind.
Definitely. But. So it's just pretty much it's to the point where, let's say I'm playing football and before a game, my anxiety's through the roof, like to the point where it's affecting my game. So in order for you to be diagnosed with an anxiety disorder, it has to kind of affect your daily routine. We all have anxiety. Everybody has anxiety. But in order for you to be diagnosed with a different anxiety disorder, it has to be to the point where you have no control over it and it affects your daily routine. So when it comes to sports anxiety, if I'm about to play a game and it's to the point where my anxiety is out the roof and I can't perform at all and it's affecting the way I play on the court or on the football field, then that would be considered sports anxiety or performance anxiety. So it is a real thing to where some clients or some individuals struggle with just kind of like getting just started the activity or started the sport or started the game, to where they need to figure out different like techniques to kind of keep them cool and collected before they start.
But the way I understood it was the person can execute like the play or play well in practice, but when they get onto the field, it doesn't translate. It doesn't translate.
Correct. Yeah.
So, where's the disconnect? Is it because of the anxiety, or is it like just being scared? That's the thing. Like, there's no other way of saying it. Like,
I think I see what you're saying. So you're saying, is it somebody just being nervous and just scared of the audience, or is it really anxiety?
Yeah, like even though like they can execute the play, like you were talking about football and basketball, they have plays in football and basketball, executed perfectly, probably could be the best athlete on the court, but the coach noticed that it doesn't translate well when it's time to perform.
So asking me as like just being a clinician, I'm gonna say it's anxiety. I'm gonna say if I see in practice that my point guard is running the plays, doing everything perfect, but when we get to the game, it's the complete opposite, and it's because there's an audience, and just because there's more pressure during the game, I'm going to look at it as anxiety instead of them just being scared. And I'm going to kind of treat it as like the person struggling with anxiety and teach them different tools and different techniques that help them when it comes to their performance anxiety. So to answer your question, I think it is a real thing. And I think that there are athletes out there that struggle with anxiety that pretty much affects their sport, and it messes up their game. But I'm pretty sure there are some kids out there that are just like nervous and scared, but in a sense that is anxiety in a sense.
Well, I'm going to say this just in case somebody listens to this like 10 years down the road. I've had it. That's the only reason why I asked this question. And I've never understood the disconnect when I could execute perfectly in practice, and then I'd be more hesitant on the field. Like I've broken that as I grew older, but I struggled with it when I was like playing through my time in sports.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
It could be multiple things. It could be. Wait, did you ever figure out the reason why? Like when you broke it, or?
It was from like a fundamental reason, a lack of confidence, because I didn't start really playing sports till I was 12, 13, because I've always been like overweight. So I felt like I've always been playing catch up. But like on surface level, I just felt like it was a lot of anxiety. Like you said, like it's like a lot of pressure, spotlight effect. I feel like everybody's just always just watching me, even though it's like 11 people in the field. I got the spotlight effect. Like everybody's just watching me and every movement I'm making.
Yeah. Exactly. And that's just different thoughts and different things you're telling yourself. So like you can be, I don't know what position you play, but somebody can be an offensive lineman, a right guard, and have that mindset. Like everybody's watching me. Like all the eyes are on me. And just having that thought and continuing to tell yourself that can play a factor in your anxiety. So it can just be different things you're telling yourself, just the way you look at the game. Like, all right, when it comes to practice, there's no pressure. So I'm going to perform perfectly. But then in the game, if I make a mistake, then we might lose the ball. We might lose the game. So just adding more pressure on you can play a factor also in it. So just different things that can factor into a different athlete kind of struggling with anxiety when it comes to their game.
Yeah. Well, I hope somebody benefits from that part of the conversation. I'm going to edit it, so you're going to do your plugins at the end. But I just thought it was very important because you said you were into sports mental health too. Yeah. A lot of people don't talk about that. They don't.
Yeah. So it's one different thing, though. I also want to share that. So like the question you just asked me, that's more like a sports psychology question. Okay. So sports psychologists, they focus more on the athlete in their sport, like pretty much like you just asked, like sports performance, sports anxiety, or performance anxiety and things like that. A sports psychologist kind of focus more on that. The avenue that I take is as a sports mental health therapist. So I'm more focused on the athlete outside of the sport. So I'm not focused on the performance of my athlete. Like they can be the worst player, the last player on the bench, but if they're struggling with anxiety in their everyday life, I'm more focused on that. And what I come to find out is that when I have clients that are athletes and they're struggling with depression outside of the sport, when they're able to kind of get a control over that, they automatically start doing better in their sport. But as a mental health therapist, I'm not focused on their performance. Like if they come to me and say, I had a bad game and only scored 3 points, to be honest, I'm going to listen, but that's not where we're going to focus on. We're not going to focus on what can we do to make you score more points. We're going to focus on you outside of your sport.
Okay.
If that makes sense. So there is a difference between like a mental health therapist and like a sports psychologist who focus more on the performance side.
All right. Well, I'm glad you broke that difference down to me. I still feel like it's still like relates regardless. Because like you said.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, because once you do better in your life outside of the sport, you're automatically, it's going to just flow into your game. You know?
You're more confident with yourself and stuff like that. So that makes
exactly
sense. But I'm glad you could answer that question. I asked my therapist about it now. I asked you. As we conclude our episode, Do you have any plugins? I know you got your social media plugins. If you want to just shout it out.
So my personal Instagram is _Todd B. My mental health apparel Instagram is mental_health_apparel. And then if any athletes are out there and they're focused and they're interested in learning more about mental health, my other Instagram name is I just made that account, so I kind of forgot it. It is elite_mental_wellness. So if you have any questions or anything, just reach out. You can contact me there through the DM or my email.
Hey, so that's the interview. I hope you guys enjoyed. Todd gave great information on why mental health matters, and you guys should probably invest in one of his shirts, probably invest in one of my shirts too, like help Black businesses out. But at the same time, I really hope you found value in this episode, and until next time, peace. That's the thing. You have to put your all into it. That energy, that vibe, that frequency.
Man, you talking too much. Let's go to verse 2.
Does it match? It's such a vibe, can't be out here just getting by. Better stay alive, better yet afloat. No Leon, I'm on the boat and I'm setting sail. Better yet, I'm in here setting bail. No nights in jail, getting out my shell. Can't be still, trying to ball out and make some meals. With the lavish life, while pacing bills.